The next section is lessons learned. Making social collaboration work. We have Jill Patrick, who has been with Accenture for 20 years, and she is the social learning and business interlock lead, and Tricia Robinson, who has been with Accenture for 22 years and is the global learning delivery lead, and Contact is making social collaboration work. So, and it continues on the theme of gamification. Okay.
Thank you. So just first a little bit about us and our roles. So this need, particularly the business interlocking, we really represent talent development. So that's our focus in the overall process here. And with Accenture, what we found and what we want to share with you today is a little bit about our story in terms of social media and bringing that and extending the view within talent development and integrating that. So what we've really learned, and particularly for a lot of folks in the room who are from talent acquisition, was that social media, and even as we just heard, if you were in the last session, are we're hiring people who are used to social media. They're using it. I saw somebody using it here today, using Twitter while we were having the last conversation. So you guys are bringing in folks that are used to social media, and then our purpose is to train and enable them. But what we learned, and we'll talk a little bit about a story, we learned we needed to engage them immediately. And we have a study on some experienced hires at Accenture around that. But we'll first kind of back up, talk a little bit about our journey at Accenture, our evolution of our tools and technology, a little bit about the challenges that we faced in introducing the concept of social, trying to tie that into the broader talent management, and some ways that we had to do that beyond just enabling technology. And then we'll walk through a service that we've defined called the Social Learning Catalyst Service, what that really entailed, how we brought in the concept of gamification in, to really make social learning work at Accenture, and then share some of our lessons learned. So with that, I will turn it over to Jill.
Okay. So I am going to talk through sort of the highlights of our journey to get us where we are today, which is actively fostering a culture of collaboration for our globally dispersed workforce. Recognizing that collaboration is a key component of talent development and to a larger extent talent management, as Tricia said, in terms of employee engagement and satisfaction. So to start, when we focused on talent development, we basically looked at technology and content, right? We had a distributed set of Lotus Notes databases that were owned by the organizations, and we were all about creating the content and entering it. So document management, documenting information. That then moved into more operational in nature. So, how do we, what do we do with the content, right? We then moved to more web-like technology where we had enterprise portals, we introduced SharePoint, we had knowledge management teams that were more focused on enterprise and industrialization. So creating a taxonomy so we could tag the content. We created discussion forums, if you remember those, to just talk about and share the content with each other. In the last 5 years or so, Accenture has continued to invest in technology, specifically in the social media area, social learning. So we've created the ability to, we've integrated capabilities for microblogging, blogging, ideation, polling, surveys, all of that. And we've seen the communities of practice sort of flourish and grow, and we've enabled that. However, so now we have the technology, and we have the content, and we have these communities, but to some extent, there are birds chirping, right? Why is this, right? We have the technology there. So it's not necessarily a build it and they will come, right? We figured that out. And the power behind the technology is how the people use it, right? So we created a role, as Tricia mentioned, called the Social Learning Catalyst. And we created a service that wraps around the technology. It is meant to foster a culture of collaboration across our workforce. We have a video that will kind of explain it a little bit, and then I can delve into more detail.
Accenture is renowned for hiring the best people and empowering them to collaborate and share their knowledge with each other across technologies, across industries, and across borders. Research shows that our highest performers collaborate and share actively and regularly, connecting to people and content, contributing their ideas and insights, and championing others to do the same. In fact, at Accenture North America, we found that new hires who don't actively collaborate within their first 6 months are twice as likely to leave. By leveraging our core value of one global network, we encourage our people to ask questions, share knowledge, and generate ideas across the organization and around the world. This represents a shift from formal compartmentalized learning to learning based on the insights and experiences of others. And it's a way of learning that can only come through collaboration. We call it social learning. In recent years, we've invested significantly in developing our internal social learning capabilities, and we've seen results in terms of increased productivity, innovation, and employee engagement. As a result, the impacts throughout Accenture can be seen through lower turnover, retention of top talent, lower operating costs, and increased profitability, to name a few. To embed social learning deep within our organizational culture, we created a spark to focus us on engaging, mentoring, and recognizing those who collaborate outside of their personal networks. A catalyst, someone who nurtures our collaborative spirit to drive activities that enable high performance. Accenture Learning can provide a social learning catalyst to support any business. This dedicated social learning expert can help you mobilize and manage an effective, relevant social learning program. How? 1, by helping your leadership understand the value that collaboration brings to their business. 2, by embedding collaborative expectations and behaviors deep within your organization's culture. And 3, by ensuring that your social learning program continues to evolve and improve. All of this so that your business can realize the advantages of a highly collaborative workforce, such as faster time to skill competency, increased efficiency and productivity, increased leadership visibility, and a more engaged, satisfied, and productive workforce. At Accenture, we don't just talk the talk when it comes to social learning, we walk the walk. Last year alone, social collaboration activities at Accenture increased 37%. Social learning catalysts were a key driver behind this change. To find out how a social learning catalyst can help your organization make the leap to high performance, contact Accenture Learning today.
So let me share a little bit about how it actually works. So at the core is collaboration. And to focus, we focused our attention on activities that would drive the biggest impact for our workforce and for our business.
Have you ever wondered why chemists are so good at solving problems? It's because they have all the solutions.
I was like,
Always wondered that.
I wasn't ready for that. Wow. No, I haven't. That's interesting. Where was I? Again, yeah, exactly. So driving activities that have the biggest impact on our workforce and on our business. So we start with defining the community. Really what we've kind of found is, again, there are these communities out there, many of them were quiet, right? People need a purpose, right? They need intent, and they need to have common interests. So we start with talking to the business about what's the ultimate goal of the business, why do we want this community to be successful, how do we want people to learn and engage, and then we actually ask them themselves. And so it's really around a purpose-driven design for the community. Engaging leaders is one of our critical success factors, right? So for many reasons. Obviously, it lends credibility to the community and to the culture and the behaviors, leading by example. And it gives two-way visibility, right? So it gives leaders visibility to what their practitioners are saying, wanting, doing, and it gives the practitioners visibility to the leadership, their goals, their vision, what they're expecting for outcomes. Driving campaigns, this is really about, collecting assets, connecting with SMEs, connecting with content. Obviously an important component of learning and talent development. Encouraging participation and engagement, we'll talk a little bit about this more, but that's really about connecting people to people and rewarding and recognizing this kind of behavior in your corporation. ROI, that's the so what, right? So when we do this, so what? What does it mean, right? What am I going to get out of it? We look to measure as we go things like followers, engagement, participation, and outcomes. It depends. If we're working with a sales organization, right, their business outcome might be to increase their first call closure rates or something of that nature. So we'll focus our activities that drive that information, that knowledge across the community. And then the outcomes, right? Forging issue to resolution. So what are we expecting out of this? What is it going to mean to the bottom line for the business? If you were in Ethan's session, where he talked about gamification, what I liked, he called it chocolate-covered broccoli, right? As a business organization, it's kind of what it is in talent development, right? We're engaging people, we want them to learn, but we want it to sort of be chocolate, right? Because it's oftentimes broccoli. So Tricia's going to talk a little bit about what we've done in that space with gamification.
Thanks. So if you think in terms of talent development and a change and a shift, more and more is moving out of the classroom and back onto the job. So as we think about how we better support that, first we have to create some awareness. What's out there? How do I use it? What are the tools? What are the communities? How do I engage? So our first step was really building the awareness of what's possible. Second was kind of taking the millennials in particular, and then more of us that connect around things like Facebook and other ways. It's taking that same concept, but now I have to apply it in a work setting. So hopefully it's not the chocolate-covered broccoli, but it's building the purpose and integrating it with the strategy that we have. So why do we want people to collaborate, and how do they do it in a work context? It's not just posting anything up there. It's posting relevant blogs, thought leadership, sharing documents that are relevant for the business. And so what we've learned is that we really need to build that understanding and awareness. Recognition I'll get into a little bit. So we've incorporated some elements of gaming in our approach and philosophy. And really it's, what we're trying to do ultimately is build that motivation. So extrinsically, we'll use the gaming. Intrinsically, what we're trying to do is change the behaviors. So if we're really trying to drive out back on the job where we have little control as talent development, we need to be able to say that, hey, they built these behaviors, they built certain capabilities, and it's integrated and now to their daily tasks. So how did we do that? So, as I mentioned, we built out, this is our concept of gamification. So how do we get people to do this with us? We really set up and we designed a program called the A3 program, Addo Amicio Award program. And that's really to give or to share knowledge. And that's what it's based on. There's 3 ways you do that. First, you connect. So I want to know more about talent in HR. Well, I want to connect to a community that's talent and HR professionals. So I connect to that circle. I start to learn who are the experts. And that's kind of the basics. Then I get to contribute. And back again to that point, we don't want just any content going up there. We want to filter it to an extent. And so the way we recognize and reward that is, ratings of your content, relevancy, how many people are following what you've posted. So you can earn points in the system on what you contribute. And then finally, the third C is champion. So what we want to do is lead by example. We want our folks to know, hey, this is part of our Accenture strategy, collaboration. We're using the power of our 330,000 plus organization and tapping into the broader globe. So how do we do that? Well, we want you to lead by example. Take that dialogue out of email and put it into a reusable channel where more people can weigh in. We can share and collect and contribute. So along the way, you can be building up points. And the intrinsic and behavior change we're driving is that we reset those points every quarter, which, as somebody who's reached the guru level and then gone back to zero, I can tell you it's no fun. I feel like the loser again, just thinking things. But ultimately, I realized I can build that back up very quickly because my behavior is to drive to my community. It's to foster ideas. It's to look at some of the thought leadership that's out there, to rate, to go there first. Suddenly I'm back up into rockstar and guru again. So what we're trying to do by that reset is build that intrinsic behavior that says, okay, it's beyond just the game. We try to weed out the game through the 3C system, through the ratings and those kinds of things, how many people follow you, all of that. And you get points, but ultimately we want this to not be a once and done activity. This is part of our DNA now, collaboration and sharing. And so by doing that, we are reinforcing those kinds of principles. Okay?
Yeah, one other thing I might just mention about the A3 program too is now it's becoming part of our performance management process. So it is an expectation from leadership, and it's part of our rating to say, how are you collaborating? How are you sharing? So that was a big step for us. It took some time to kind of get there, but now that we're there, there's still the gaming aspect and component of it because you want to keep people interested and engaged and make it fun, right? While they're learning, don't let them know all the time that they're necessarily learning. But as Tricia said, we've learned over time how to ungame the gaming system, right? So we set it back to zero and we motivate people to want to reach this. We do have leaderboards and things like that, and I know Ethan talked about there's pros and cons to leaderboards, right? In some cases it motivates people, in some cases it demotivates people. So you need to be really careful how you're applying those principles. So how do we apply this? We do have hundreds of communities. We've started to categorize them now into professional communities, communities of interest, and so forth. So we're learning and growing with this. We thought we'd pick out the talent and HR community for obvious reasons, as many of you are in that spot yourself, and just kind of show you what we went through with this group. So again, now collaboration is very important at Accenture. Leadership recognizes that it's important. They know they need to do this. The talent and HR organization, they have the offerings that we bring to our clients, and there was an ask to have better visibility to the offerings as they grow and change, as the market grows and changes, and to understand who their subject matter experts are that they want to connect with, right? So we came in and we helped them, evangelize what collaboration could do for them and the value of it. And I'll tell you, there still was hesitation from leadership, right? They weren't necessarily bought in and sold on the concept that this could really work. And that's still happening today, right? Because Accenture is a very large organization and not everybody's going to buy into this. And so it does take some upfront work to really demonstrate the value. Sometimes you kind of have to give it that. So they were hesitant. We moved forward. I talk about empowering champions and enablers. That's really recognizing that the business, the people, your workforce are the ones that power this. So the champion isn't posting the questions or answering the questions. What they're doing is they're fostering that behavior in the community. The community, they're the experts. Your workforce, they're the experts. They're the ones that need to be answering these questions. I was telling a story yesterday about how my husband went on to Amazon and ordered a part for our dryer that had broken. He's like, I'm just going to fix this myself. So he went on Amazon.com. He bought the dryer part, fixed it, whatever. I still get emails today when there's a question about that dryer part or how to fix it. Amazon sends me an email and says, can you help this person, right? you bought the part, can you answer the question? And I just thought, it's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the point here. It's really trying to get people to, tap into the experts. They're out there, right? And with a 330,000 plus organization, it's been done before. There's experts out there. We need to tap into it. So, we built the community, focused on really relevant content and engaging. We talked to them about what is it you want to hear about, right? And another thing we learned is, it changes over time. So the initial target audience that we expected to hit with this, our account leads that are in the business, weren't as engaged as we thought they would be, right? But there were other groups that were interested in this content and this information and were engaged. So we had to be, agile throughout the process. It's not, you build it and it's perfect and it sustains itself. Again, you have to build the culture and the behavior. You also have to be agile and open and willing to change to meet the needs as they change throughout the business. So I don't think there's anything else I want to highlight here. So I guess just to sort of wrap, it's still a journey. We're still learning as we go. I think we've come a long way at Accenture in terms of recognizing that the collective intelligence of your workforce is really what we're trying to tap into here. And by doing so, you will engage them and motivate them to be involved, right, and to be more productive. So Tricia's going to kind of talk through some of our main lessons learned.
I think some are pretty obvious in terms of, for us, our vision at Accenture in terms of talent development is learning, taking time away to learn and learning all the time. But then we need what we're going to provide to our people and our workforce to be engaging and interesting. So if we want them learning all the time, we've got to set it up and draw them to it. And so, for us, it was really around investing in that vision. Jill touched on, leadership is key. So having, our partners engage in the communities and drive the communities and set the tone, that's where our people start to follow. So they can see those leaders, they can hear the vision in everyday interaction. I think if you were in the last session with Ethan, he talked about, not everybody's going to adopt certain behaviors. Our philosophy, though, is collaboration is part of who we are at Accenture. So that means, we need to bring people along the journey and recognize that some people will go farther. Might be that guru stage. They might only do certain things like engage through contribution or connection and not necessarily championing, and that will land them somewhere on that spectrum. So if all I did was connect, my score will reflect that too. So I need to do all three of those things to really advance and get to that highest level. That's okay. We don't expect everybody at our organization to be a guru. We do want them to know what it's all about and how to bring that about. It's not about the numbers. So surely we can just track how many people get on, how many people participate. But ultimately, what we're doing is trying to change behavior. If you get back to that thought that talent development is no longer in the classroom, we need to be able to support work on the job. We need the behavior to change, that people start to see, hey, it's not just what I did in that training session, it's the community that I have. It's the circle that I participated in with that class that I now continue to engage, that I share my thinking and my thought leadership with. And then, ultimately, as Jill said, with this, the example community, it's a journey. So we have to be agile and flexible to adapt to the changes that each community is going to need. I think probably the last point for me is just around, as I think of this in terms of the broader talent strategy, we also learn it's not just talent development. We need to work with talent acquisition. You've heard the story. So if our new hires weren't engaged immediately, we lost them. So we need to be partnering with our talent acquisition team in terms of how do we immediately onboard people? How do we engage them throughout the process? How do we, build it into our performance management process and recognition process so that it is part of an integrated talent management approach?
You mentioned that with the one community, the people you expected to be engaged weren't, that's another group was. Could you share a little bit about what group was engaged?
Our management consulting organization. So it was our consulting personnel that had an interest in the offerings and the subject matter expertise that was being delivered there. So, you know, as a social learning catalyst, you follow the statistics, the numbers, who's following, what are they engaged in, you kind of monitor the conversation just to see, you know, do we need to change our approach? Do we need to look for something different? And frankly, we were engaging the account leads, the original audience, as champions, right? Champions to be the ones in the community driving those behaviors, and we weren't seeing it from them. So again, go back to the drawing table with them and say, what is it you want? What is it you need? What will drive you here, right? When you talk about your social life or your social media in your personal environment, right? Facebook, right? It's what drives certain people to go there and to post, right? They find it engaging, you know, it's enjoyable, they do it naturally, it's something they want to do. Now, not everybody does, right? So how can we bring that into the workplace and find interesting topics and that suit the right people? So we are finding you know, there's a lot of communities out there. Obviously, we're a big company, and now we're in the spot of, are there too many? How many should you join? Which ones do you want to see the feeds from every day? So we're trying to help people guide them through that process to say, here's how many people you should be following roughly, you know, and here's the types of communities. And that will change over time as your role changes as well.
I see it at the sign, with people giving you the sign that time is up, but just something to think about. How do we get people to double click on the fact that that's development? Like, we always have to go outside or move out of for development. This is development, but how do you push that?
Are you talking the leaders? How do you get the leaders to
No,
recognize
the
development
people
of
who, you know, that there's so many ways we develop that we don't call development. Oh, that's social collaboration. Oh, that's.
We're driving that now through campaigns, probably with more of our clients. So it's more about, you know, kind of a philosophy, and, you know, the numbers might be off, but we say it's 70, 20, 10, 70% on the job, 20% in coaching, and 10% formal now. So while there's probably debate around those exact numbers, the idea, though, is that we're trying to drive the thinking that says, hey, it's about the individual and the audience. So how do you take them along the journey? Well, you might start out with, you know, certain things that are around, you know, standard communications, but weaving the themes through with certain campaigns or certain business outcomes and demonstrating the results of that and how we've made that connection through and what impact that has had back on the business. That's a separate and probably lengthy
Yeah,
topic
it is,
we could
it
talk
is,
about
it
for a
is.
while.
I have
So
an
sorry, we're out of
article due on
time.
it, so I
We can
have to-
certainly
Yeah.
be available for questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.